If you are newly promoted and feeling uneasy, here's the truth. I promise you're not broken, you're not behind, and you're not an imposter. You are in transition. Leadership is forged in that uncomfortable space between competence and humility. The promotion trap is real, but it's not inevitable. You avoid it by doing the hard, quiet work of becoming intentional about how you lead, how you decide, and how you show up for your people. That is what Blue Leader Nation is about. Building leaders who can handle pressure without becoming rigid, distant, or burned out. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and keep leading with purpose.
This is Blue Leader Nation. Blue Leader Nation. We're here to develop those men and women in law enforcement who want to be respected leaders and to mold you into becoming a legendary leader. If it's leadership, personal growth, and self-development, we're talking about it. Whether you're new or a veteran, you've found your new home. This is the Blue Leader Nation. Now, here's your host, Dr. Ed Pallas.
Welcome to the Blue Leader Nation podcast. I'm your host, Ed Pallas. If you've ever been promoted in law enforcement, or you're thinking about putting your name into the hat for the promotion list, I want you to listen closely to this opening thought. In this profession, we promote people for being really good at their job. Then, almost overnight, we ask them to stop doing the job the way they did it that made them so successful. Think about that for a moment. We promote the officer who knows how to handle chaos, the analyst who always catches what everyone else misses, the communication specialist, the dispatcher who stays calm when everything else is on fire. The civilian professional quietly carries the workload and fixes problem before anyone notices. And then promotion happens. Suddenly, the work feels heavier instead of lighter. The confidence you expected to feel doesn't show up on schedule. You feel busy all day, but then, strangely, you're unsure of whether you're doing the right things. Here's the part no one says out loud. Many high performers start to wonder if they made a mistake by getting promoted, or worse, they start to wonder if the organization made a mistake by promoting them. If that sounds familiar, this episode is for you. Today's episode is called The Promotion Trap That No One Wanted You to Know About in Law Enforcement. And the subtitle tells you exactly where we're going. Imposter syndrome, the Peter Principle, and the leadership shift no one explains. Now, this is not a motivational episode. It's a clarity episode. Struggling after promotion does not mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're incompetent, and it definitely does not mean you do not belong. What it usually means is that you're in the middle of an identity shift that no one prepared you for. In law enforcement, we are excellent at teaching people how to do the job. Think about entry-level police training in the U.S. for sworn officers. Now, it varies, but it averages about 5 to 6 months on average, 26 weeks. That's the basic academy. But we don't stop there. After the basic academy is usually the field training component. My voice cracked there. Let's try that again. After the basic academy is usually the field training component of another 12 to sometimes 24 additional weeks. Dispatchers or communication specialists receive comprehensive training that can span from about 2 to 4 months in the classroom and then 6 to 7 months of floor training, depending on the agency size, and in some cases, up to a year to become fully proficient as a dispatcher. All in all, our entry-level training is pretty good. We're not nearly as good at teaching people how to change who they have to be when the job changes. You see, before promotion, success is clear. You do the work, you handle the call, you complete the task, you solve the problem. After promotion, success gets fuzzy. You're no longer judged just by what you do, but by what happens through you, through your decisions, through your priorities, through the people you now lead or influence. That transition catches a lot of good people off guard. Some try to work harder. Some try to stay busier. Some jump back into the work because it feels familiar and safe. And many never realized that what they are experiencing is not failure, it's friction. The friction between an old identity and a new role. Here's the core idea I want you to keep in mind as we move forward. Promotion does not just change your title. It changes who and what you are responsible for. If you stay anchored to the identity of a doer, when the role now requires a decider, frustration is almost guaranteed. In this episode, we're going to unpack why that happens, how psychology explains it, and why law enforcement culture makes it even more intense. We will talk honestly about imposter syndrome, the Peter Principle, and the quiet behaviors that cause strong leaders to get unintentionally in their own way. Most importantly, we're going to talk about how to make the shift deliberately without losing your credibility, your confidence, or your sanity. This is Blue Leader Nation, a place for leaders who want fewer heroics and better decisions. Let's get into it. Most people in law enforcement get promoted because they are excellent doers. Yeah, sometimes because they are excellent test takers. That happens. But I'm going to focus on the cops, the dispatchers, and professional staff members who are really good at their jobs. They know how to handle calls. They know how to manage chaos. They know policy and tactics and the unspoken rules of the job. They get really good at their current job, then the promotion happens, and suddenly that job changes. Your value is no longer measured by how fast you move or how many problems you personally solve. Your value is measured by how well you decide who gets assigned, decide how problems get handled. Decide what matters most when everything feels urgent. That shift is harder than most people expect. You go from being hands-on to being accountable for those who are hands-on, from fixing problems to owning outcomes, from action to judgment. And nobody hands you a clear instruction manual for that transition. So the most common mistake new supervisors make is a very human one. They keep doing. They jump calls they should be overseeing. They fix issues their people should be fixing. They stay busy to feel useful. It feels productive, but it creates two problems. First, it exhausts you. Second, it quietly teaches your people that you don't trust them. Leadership is not about being the best firefighter in the room. It's about deciding which fires actually matter and building people who can handle them without you standing there. That is the moment when so many new supervisors feel stuck. They are working harder than ever, but they're leading less than they think. And that is where the promotion trap starts to close. Let's talk about what often shows up next and almost never gets said out loud: imposter syndrome. This is not weakness. It's not a lack of ability. It's a very real psychological pattern that shows up in high-performing people. When those high-performing people step into a role where the rules have now changed. In simple terms, imposter syndrome is the belief that your success is accidental, temporary, or undeserved, and that sooner or later, someone is going to figure out. In law enforcement, it sounds like this: I'm not ready for this. They're going to realize I was better on the street than I am in this supervisory role. I don't know enough yet, and everyone can tell. But here's the part most people miss. Imposter syndrome does not show up because you are incompetent. It shows up because you are suddenly aware of how much weight your decisions carry. Let me give you a street-level example. Picture a newly promoted sergeant on a midnight shift. They used to be the go-to officer, the one people always called and relied on for backup, the one who always had an answer, and now they're wearing 3 stripes. A hot call comes out. Multiple units respond. The scene is loud, emotional, and messy. Everyone turns to look at the sergeant. And for a split second, there's a pause. Not because they do not care, not because they don't know the policy, but because they're thinking, if I get this wrong, it's on me. So instead of slowing the scene down, they rush a decision to prove they belong, to prove they put the stripes on the right person. Or they over-control the scene, micromanaging, barking orders they would never have given yesterday. Or sometimes they avoid stepping in at all and hope the moment just passes. All 3 of these reactions come from the same place. That's fear of being exposed. Here's the paradox. The people most likely to experience imposter syndrome are often the ones who care the most about doing the job the right way. They understand complexity. They see second and third order consequences. They know what they don't know. That awareness feels like insecurity, but it is actually a sign of maturity. The danger is not feeling like an imposter. The danger is letting that feeling drive your behavior. When imposter syndrome runs the show, leaders get rigid, hesitant, or reactive. They lead to protect themselves instead of supporting their people. Strong leaders do something different. They don't eliminate doubt. They learn to pause and acknowledge it internally and still decide with purpose. Consequence in leadership does not come from knowing everything. It comes from knowing how to think under pressure. All right, now let's zoom out and talk about something that explains why this experience is not just personal, it's structural. It's called the Peter Principle. The idea comes from a Canadian educator, Lawrence J. Peter. He noticed a strange pattern across organizations. People tend to get promoted based on how well they performed in their current role, not on how prepared they are for the next one. Over time, that means many people rise until they reach a position where the skills that made them successful no longer apply. At that point, their performance stalls, their stress increases, and their confidence starts to wobble. Here's the psychological foundation underneath that idea. Most jobs reward technical competence. In policing, that means tactical skill, decision, speed, and the ability to handle pressure personally. Leadership roles, on the other hand, reward cognitive and social competence. That means judgment, emotional regulation, communication, and the ability to influence others without force. Brain does not automatically switch operating systems when you promote. The habits that kept you safe and effective on the street do not magically turn into leadership skills overnight. So when people say someone was promoted to their level of incompetence, it's not really an insult. I mean, it's a mismatch problem. The organization rewarded excellence in one domain and then expected immediate excellence in a completely different one, or one that's at least drastically different. Law enforcement is especially vulnerable to this because we tend to treat promotion as validation. You pass the test, you earn the rank, you should be ready. But readiness is not static, it's developmental. Without intentional leadership training, mentoring, and feedback, new supervisors often default to what they know: control, certainty, action. Those instincts kept them alive as officers, but they can quietly damage trust as leaders. The Peter Principle becomes a real problem only when organizations and individuals treat promotion like a finish line. Promotion is not the destination. It's the point where the learning curve gets steeper. Strong agencies acknowledge this and invest accordingly. Strong leaders do the same. Strong leaders treat rank not as proof of mastery, but as permission to grow. And when that mindset is missing, the promotion trap does not just affect one person, it spreads. Now, let's talk about why all of this hits law enforcement harder than almost anywhere else. Every profession has promotions. Every organization has a hierarchy. But policing adds pressure that most leadership roles never touch. Your decisions carry legal consequences. They can affect careers, lives, and liberty. And they are often made in public, under stress, with incomplete information, and being recorded most likely on a body-worn camera that everybody else is going to Monday morning quarterback. All of that would be enough. But there's more. In law enforcement, you often supervise people who were your peers yesterday. You ate lunch together, you worked the same shifts, you trusted each other on calls. Then one day, you're wearing stripes or bars, and the relational ground shifts. Now, some people are going to test you. Some people are going to pull away. And some people expect you to stay exactly the same. None of that is written into policy. but all of it is real. On top of that, our culture quietly teaches leaders that certainty equals competence. We reward decisiveness. We praise command presence. We expect calm under pressure. Now, don't get me wrong. Those are not bad traits, but they can create a dangerous illusion. Certainty is not the same thing as good judgment. Some of the worst leadership decisions in policing are made quickly, confidently, and without reflection. Strong leaders understand that presence does not mean having every answer. It means knowing when to slow the moment down, a calm pause on a chaotic scene, a measured response in a tense meeting, a decision that considers second and even third order consequences. This is where many new leaders struggle. They feel pressure to perform with certainty instead of practicing clarity. So they talk more than they listen. They decide before they assess. They confuse control with leadership. And the cost is not just personal stress. It shows up as morale issues, burnout, mistrust, and eventually attrition. Leadership in law enforcement is not about dominance. It's about presence. It's about being steady when others are flooded. And that skill is learned. It's not inherited with rank. So how do you avoid the promotion trap without becoming passive, overwhelmed, or even disconnected from your people? You start by redefining what success looks like. When you were an officer, success meant doing, handling calls, solving problems, being the one others relied on. After promotion, success shifts a little bit. It's no longer about how much you personally accomplish. It's about how well your people perform when you're not standing next to them. And that is an uncomfortable transition. It means letting others struggle a little, but safely. It means resisting the urge to jump in just to prove you still can. It means coaching instead of rescuing. One of the most powerful mindset shifts new leaders can make is this. Your job is not to be the best problem solver in the room. Your job is to build problem solvers. That requires patience and trust, and it requires the ability to tolerate short-term discomfort for long-term growth. Another key shift is learning to lead with intent instead of constant instruction. Clear expectations, clear priorities, clear boundaries. When people know what matters most, they do not need you hovering. They just need you available. Finally, you have to give yourself permission to be a learner again. Promotion does not mean you should feel confident immediately. It means you should feel committed to reflection, committed to feedback, committed to learning and getting better. Strong leaders do not pretend they have arrived. They act like students of the role. This is how you avoid the promotion trap, not by being perfect, but by being intentional. If any part of this episode feels uncomfortably familiar, that's not an accident. These challenges are not personal failures. They are predictable leadership transitions that most people are never trained for. And that is exactly why Blue Leader Nation exists. Not to hand out slogans, not to pretend leadership is easy, but to give law enforcement professionals a place to think clearly about pressure, decision-making, and the human side of leading people. Because the job does not get easier when you promote. It just gets heavier. And leaders who are not equipped to carry that weight eventually pay for it. And worse, so do their people. If you are newly promoted and feeling uneasy, here's the truth. I promise you're not broken. You're not behind, and you're not an imposter. You are in transition. Leadership is forged in that uncomfortable space between competence and humility. The promotion trap is real, but it's not inevitable. You avoid it by doing the hard, quiet work of becoming intentional about how you lead, how you decide, and how you show up for your people. That is what Blue Leader Nation is about. Building leaders who can handle pressure without becoming rigid, distant, or burned out. Thanks for spending part of your day with me. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and keep leading with purpose.
You've been listening to the Blue Leader Nation podcast. Our passion is anyone within the thin blue line who want to take it to the next level. We hope you didn't mind the dad jokes, by the way. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit the website at www.blueleadernation.com.